You operate a business with your name on it, Montgomery Performance Consultants. You're someone that probably a lot of people have seen around the inner part of the racetrack in the pits and stuff, working with drivers and stuff. So before we get too much into your backstory, how was your year? How professionally? How was your year? I got to see, you seem like you got to do a lot of different things.
This was a good year. It was the first full season once I purchased the pull-down fixture and the data system. We did some stuff with dirt cars. We did some stuff with asphalt cars. I got to travel quite a bit. I had a customer fly me to Wisconsin to do some stuff with him. I had a customer request that I come to Michigan to do a data test with them and then use their pull-down rig to pull down with the data. I had a dirt customer request that I come to West Virginia. Had a dirt customer get me to come to Florida. And I had a dirt customer get me to come to Kentucky.
It's probably quite a bit for you to travel, because that pull down rig doesn't fit in no carry on luggage. That's quite a bit you have to haul when you go to these places and stuff. It's not just a backpack and going with what's between your ears. It's a
neat little deal. I bought a trailer from Dustin Rumley and his dad, Rumley Enterprises, up off of 29. Got our good friend Jason to decal the back of it. And I outfitted the inside a bit to accommodate the equipment, and got a little truck, and we just, whenever customer calls, I go. So it works out good. It's kind of neat. It's everything fits inside, nice and neat, and I can be there whenever they need me.
How much of your business is kind of during the week before they get the car to the racetrack, and how much of it is being at the racetrack with them on race day or on a practice day, if you will, to kind of fine tune it? How much is it like 50-50, or is it mostly kind of during the week?
It changes because it's customer dependent, and it does change based on customers. Like a dirt guy, I will go to their shop, pull their car down, and go over things with them, and just kind of give them a notebook of what they could expect and changes to make once they get there. Just a couple different directions to go. And then the asphalt guys, some customers want me to go with them in crew chief deals for weekend shows, and I will do some of that. But a lot of times I will try to get customers to data test and then pull down.
Okay.
That's the most precise, accurate information any customer is ever going to get. And you can, instead of just guessing where the car's going, you see in the data, okay, I'm traveling here in the middle of the corner. So then that's where you set your front end geometry to work and your bump stops to work, and then you pick up a lot of speed and take off.
I'll tell you what, you've already outsmarted me, and we're just a few seconds in. But let's talk about you a little bit before we get too deep off into the engineering side and stuff, because I'm definitely going to ask you a lot of questions on that. But just from my experience, I just remember you from Ace Speedway. I think I said on a previous episode, kind of the first year I remember is like 93, 94 when I was 5 or 6 years old. And I don't mean to make you feel old, but that's just kind of where I was. And I always, I said on a previous episode, I remember it being a big deal to me the year you moved up to late models. I think you'd been running super stocks and you moved up to late models and you were in the 00 car. And that's kind of the first kind of memory or thing where I just realized that you even existed in the first place. So tell me a little bit about where you come from and a little bit of your backstory and whatnot before you kind of get bit by the racing bug as a kid or however old you were.
So I grew up Alamance County, right over here in Green Acres. It's Indian Valley, and on a good clear night we could hear the cars at the racetrack. That's how close I lived. So I guess I was probably 9 years old. I heard race cars, and I'm like, what in the world is that? And so I said, well, at some point, I'm going to get over there and see what's happening. Well, luckily, my neighbor, his uncle was partners in a car with Mike Turl's dad, Richard Turl.
Okay.
So they invited my neighbor to go with them, and he came over and was like, hey, you want to go with me? I'm going. And I was like, heck yeah. I might have been 13. So we go, and Richard drives. It's a green Falcon, 1963 Ford Falcon, number 13. I mean, it's got all the the don't do's particulars, and he ended up winning that night.
Was he in the Premier Division, or was he in kind of one of the other divisions?
He was in one of the lower classes. I don't even know if they called it hobby stock or whatever it was, but bigger tires, neat little cars. And so he won, and we actually got to sit on the car as he made a victory lap, waving the flag out the window.
That's awesome.
So you can't get bit by a better bug than that.
I'm about to say, yeah. You didn't go on a night where the person you knew kind of scrubbed out and finished. You went and, I mean, you couldn't have not gotten bit.
Exactly. So that kind of started it off. And then I loved racing ever since. And fortunately got to drive. Didn't know what I was doing. Didn't have a clue. Get out there the first time, think I'm flying, and like 3 cars blow by me like I was sitting still. I said, "Oh Lord, this ain't good."
See, it seems like you were a lot later on. There's so many people I talk to. They talk about getting bit by the bug, even just as a fan at like 5, 6, 7 years old. That's kind of where I was. But you were so much later. So I mean, when you did get to kind of start driving, did you go the go-kart route like some people did, or did you kind of go the full-size car when you decided, okay, this is something I want to give a try?
I went full-size car. Basically, it was, I want to say the Charger class at Ace. So it was a full-size stock car. And
this is still dirt. It's still dirt at this time, right?
No. It was actually asphalt.
Okay, so this is 1990 on. Okay.
Yeah, it was asphalt. And Daryl Waltrip was my hero. So we painted the car up like DWs, and I was number 17. And we missed the first race because the engine wasn't ready. And then we had some issues, so we missed the second race. And then we got out there, and like I said, the first day, I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so I spun out. Well, I tried to get up to speed, and I ended up spinning out. And luckily, I kept the car running. And I got that out of my system. I'm like, well, okay, I can't go that hard. So let's back it up a little bit. And for whatever reason, it just came. And, we did okay. And I was going through Bible study often with Gary Gates. And he's like, hey, brother. He said, I made you something today. And he said, I want you to have it. I was like, okay. He said, why don't you put it in your race car?
Okay.
I was like, okay. So I drilled holes and riveted to the dash, and it was a Bible verse. And we went to the racetrack, and lo and behold, we won.
Oh, man. Should have done that sooner.
So I was like, well, so this is what it feels like. Well, cool. And so, again, I got bit by the bug and just wanted to win. And I think we won about 5 races that year. Finished second in the points, even though we missed a couple. And we actually had a win taken from us. There was what they called some rough driving.
Oh no! Did you got penalized after the fact or just during the race?
After the fact.
Oh.
Look, there's video. I'm going to get you and Jason, and we're going to watch this video.
Okay.
Because Gary Beatty and Lenny Baticki were the broadcast.
Okay.
And Wayne Lineberry's leading. I'm running second, and Richard Hatch is third. Well, I'm catching Lineberry. I'm getting away from Hatch. I'm running Lineberry down. When I catch him, well, then he starts brake checking me.
Okay.
In the corner. So I nudge him and get off of him. Well, he brake checks me enough where Hatch catches us, and we're going down the back stretch, and I'm all over him. And we go off in the corner. Well, he checks up. I'm trying to get off of him, and Hatch is steadily in the gas. Well, it picks my back tires up, and I start turning sideways.
Yeah.
I'm on the brakes trying to get off of Wayne, and I'm like, well, I got to get off the brakes or I'm going to lose it. So
yeah.
I get off the brakes, and Wayne kind of spins and just stops. Well, I turn right and go past him. Hatch comes with me. Wayne just sits there. I mean, if he would just let off the brake and got in the gas and went, he would have won.
Yeah.
But he stopped. And so I drive by him. Hatch drives by him. They waved the checker flag, and Jerry King was running like 4th. And dude, he come off in there and just cleaned Lineberry out.
Oh.
Crippled his rear clip, tore the car up. I'm sure it tore Jerry's car up. These guys ain't happy.
Yeah.
So I pull up in Victory Lane, and they like, no, you got to go. I was like,
I bet you were furious.
well, I was pretty ill because, at the time I didn't realize the announcers were like, well, Lineberry's brake checking. The announcers called it. And they're like, well, you rough drove him. I was like, rough drove him? I was like, dude, Hatch was running over top of me. I was a meat and a sandwich.
Yeah.
So they get out of here. So I drove my car away, and Hatch got the win. I was like, that sucked.
Yeah, what a bummer, man. Because I think I'm trying to remember how long the super stock races were back then. They were like 30, 35 laps. It's not very long. So I mean, golly, on the last lap, geez. Did you have some family there that stuck up for you when the officials came and told you to move?
But what? And they're like, you go on. I was like, what do you mean go on? It's like, well, you're being penalized. I was like, what do you mean I'm being penalized? Rough driving. All right. So I went on, but it was fun. I mean, you learn a lot, and you understand kind of. It's easy to Monday morning quarterback, but when a call, I didn't realize it at the time.
Yeah.
But as time goes on and you understand the sport, you get a split second to make a call, and it's your judgment.
Yeah.
It's based on what you see. So, I get it. I understand it. It affects you. Sometimes you're the bug. Sometimes you're the windshield.
Yeah, I'm about to say it usually comes back around, and it's not like post race tech where they're sitting there looking at something over and over. That's a tough call to make, and I know most race officials would hate to be in that position. But so at this time, are you just racing at Ace, or did you kind of go out to Orange County and Caraway and some of the other nearby tracks?
We went to Caraway. I think that was the first track that we ventured to away from Ace. We were fast. We really had a good car there. I didn't, Ace was all I knew.
Yeah.
So going to Caraway, it was a little intimidating, but I managed to get up to speed, and we were pretty quick there. And I think we were passing the guy for third, and the dude running fourth, Craig Moore or something like that, I don't know, Dan Moore, hit me in the left rear, spun, and busted my tire.
Yeah.
So we pit, and we're getting the flat fixed, and they drop the jack, and I'm coming back on the racetrack, and they're taking the green. So I'm like, oh Lord, I'm waiting behind.
Yeah, this is not good.
So there's no more cautions. Well, I catch up and end up driving back to fifth.
Okay.
So feel like we had a good car. I'm not gonna say we had a car we could have won with, but we felt like we had a really good car. We were pretty quick.
So this is all taking place kind of in the 90s and stuff. So this is what you're doing on the weekends. What are you doing during the week? What's your job at this point? What's your 9 to 5 during the week that helps get you to the racetrack on Friday nights at Ace and then a few Saturdays here and there?
Back then, I was what you would call a production manager with Triton Water, Alamance Foods.
Okay.
And they were a big sponsor. That was, honestly, I couldn't have raced as much as I did had it not been for those guys. But that was my, I guess you would call it 7 to 4
okay.
type deal. And then.
Would they let you off early on Fridays? 'Cause I remember when the pit gates used to open at like 1 on Fridays or something crazy early like that. Practice didn't start till 6, but.
Yeah. They worked with me because WBBB came to us and said, hey, look, we want to be on your car. We don't have money, but we can give you 30 minutes of a radio show. I was like, well, cool. And so that happened Friday morning at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So they worked with me as far as Friday. So Friday I get to go be on the radio for a half hour, an hour, and then, I'd leave earlier in the day. So Fridays they were very gracious to me. That was, good company.
That's pretty good stuff. So you're racing, and I remember, like I said earlier, when you made the move up to the late models, because I think it was you and Keith Woody, and those were at times, in those 90s when it was 20 cars was a small pack, and you had your Barry Begley's, your Robert Turners, your Dean Wards, your Richard Landreths, your Jay Fogelmans, and that's just Ace. I'm not even taking into account these other places or people that would come in. I still remember when Dick Shirley would get out there and race. So when you moved up to late model Ace Speedway in this time when it just seems like it was just boiling over with just talent, let alone the numbers. What was that like for you? Was that intimidating, or were you just so full of confidence that it was like, bring it?
That was the one thing I believe I lacked the most, was the confidence, because when I first started racing, I kind of tried to pattern. I looked at Todd Massey and looked at Barry Begley. Todd was extremely aggressive, and Begley was just so smooth. At least he appeared to be smooth. Yeah. And so I was like, well, I'm going to take the aggressiveness from Todd, and I'm going to take the smoothness from Barry, and I'm trying to do those things. And getting out there, you realize them dudes are pretty daggum good. Oh, yeah. So right away, it knocked my confidence for a loop. And it took a while to feel like, okay, I can run with these guys. I understand what I need from a car in order to be fast with these guys, because everybody thinks they're a race car driver.
Yeah, of course.
And, you want to be the baddest cat there, but it ain't quite that simple. There's multiple factors that you just don't understand. And it took me a bit to quite understand what I needed out of a race car in order to go fast.
Would you ever kind of follow behind it? I've heard some guys talk about getting behind certain people in practice just to see kind of how they attack the track or kind of what their line is. Did you ever do stuff like that or come out there on Wednesdays for open practice and, watch them while you were practicing, anything like that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I needed a rabbit early on to understand just how hard you could go. Because, like I said, Todd would drive off in the corner until he'd see Jesus before he lifted.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I mean, he had no fear. Guys like that. Robert Turner was really smooth. I looked at Robert as kind of a very patient, smart driver.
Yeah.
Begley, you look at him as a smooth guy. Landreth just really, really, I think, was a smooth cat. It's like he didn't make mistakes.
Yeah.
He was extremely consistent. And Dean Ward was just aggressive. I mean, he was in your face. I'm bringing it. You get you some of this, and then that's how he raced.
Yeah.
Like I said, Turner, he was smooth, smart, very calculated with what he was doing. And Landreth, it's like the guy didn't make mistakes. I mean, he was just smooth, very, very methodical with what he was doing in the car, and so it was neat to race those guys and be around them and see kind of how they drove. And then once I figured out what I needed in a car. And I was like, okay, I can run with these guys.
Yeah. It just you had to learn. There was no book you could read. You were going to just have to learn by being out there. I think that's something that kind of gets discounted a little bit, is just that you can't just watch and you can't just study. You got to just be out there and be just among them, I guess, if you will. It's like playing basketball. You don't get great at basketball by watching someone else play. You got to go out there and play and see, all right, I need to do this, this, and this. Yeah,
well, like I said, you look at different guys, and Landreth would be smooth, and he would, he wouldn't be a ball of fire right out the gate. Robert Turner, take for instance, he wouldn't be a ball of fire right out the gate, but at the end of the race, he's running as fast as he ran, as the race started. Todd, Dean Ward, those guys were aggressive. They weren't saving anything. They were qualifying every lap.
Yeah.
And so, it took me a minute to quite understand, like, okay, I can't run quite as hard as I want to early on, and it's a balance, and you have to understand just what your car's giving you and how much a decent lap time to be competitive, and then am I saving enough to go at the end, or am I overdriving my stuff, am I burning my tires off? It took a while to figure that out, and I don't think I ever figured out how to qualify.
That's a tough one. Everybody talks about how tough that is.
I was pathetic.
Oh man.
Yeah, it was terrible. If I got a pole or up front, it was a fluke.
Oh, don't say that.
It wasn't anything I did. I was like, well, hey, that car's pretty good.
I got you. So you're doing this late model racing, but then at what point does kind of in your professional world, when do you kind of start to break into kind of that upper echelon of work? Because I see pictures kind of on your Facebook and stuff from like Throwback Thursday that comes up where you got the Coors Light suit on, or the one I think you posted today where you were with Darrell Waltrip when he was in the Route 66 car. So take me to when your work on that kind of side of the sport kind of takes off a little bit, or kind of gets up to that higher level. When does that kind of come in?
Actually, in the first experience that I had at any upper level was an ARCA deal in, I think, 1997.
Okay.
And that was Daytona. And a bunch of us went to help a buddy of mine, Carl Long. And for some reason, those idiots voted that it was a committee vote who was going to be crew chief. And for whatever reason, they felt like I needed to do it. And I was like, well, that's not a good choice. So,
how big was this committee? Like 10 guys, or like 5 guys and some Bud Light?
Yeah, it was 5. But it worked out good, and we had a good showing. And that was my first actual, not Ace Speedway, not Caraway, not South Boston, not Orange County.
Big time.
The Daytona. That's the Mecca. I mean, every kid dreams of walking through the gate at Daytona and having fun. And so that was my first taste. And then I drove a Pro Cup car for a guy in 2000 and really wanted to, had hopes of, okay, I want to do this. I want to drive. I feel like I can, and I want to try.
Yeah.
And actually ended up Ed and Maxine Whitaker, excuse me, out of Bristol, Virginia, right on the border of Bristol, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Offered me a ride in a Busch car.
Wow.
And that was exciting because, dude, if you look at the history of who's driven their car, I'm talking about Dale Earnhardt, Morgan Shepherd. I mean, lots of really good. Harry Gant.
These ain't no also-rans. These are big-time guys, talented guys.
Back in the day, they had the cream of the crop drive their stuff. And obviously they weren't a premier team, but it was a Busch team.
Yeah.
And so Ed was like, look, I'm working on a sponsor. I think got things lined up, and let's go racing. I'm like, heck yeah, dude. Well, the sponsor backed out.
Oh.
And Kelly Denton had some type of a sponsor, so he took the money and then got the ride. And so at that point, realization set in of, okay, this sport's brutal. It ain't for the weak-minded. So you better figure out how to make a living at it, because you're too honest to steal. You're too lazy to work. You better figure something out and make money in racing.
Yeah, and you didn't come from any money, so you didn't have a check to write like some of these other guys did.
No, that wasn't the case for me. So, like I said, I drove Pro Cup stuff and had a good time with that. Mike Laughlin was nice to me the first time I drove a Pro Cup car. I'd never been to Peach State. This is in Georgia.
Yeah.
So I'm standing in line to sign in, and there's Mike Laughlin, and we're talking, and he introduces me to the guy. His name was Don Sprouse, and he goes, "What's your name?" I said, "Keith Montgomery." He goes, "Hey man, you're my driver."
Well, nice to meet you.
How about that? So
Wow.
We go out and practice, and I feel like the car is not very good at all. And
That's a big, heavy car too. That ain't no lightweight thing. That thing's big and old and heavy.
fun to drive. I really enjoyed those cars. But Laughlin's like, "Hey, look," he's like, "Dude, that car is not that good." He said, "And you're pretty quick in it." He said, because we were like 12th quick at the time. And he's like, "Yeah, if you need some money, you can get some money behind you. I think you can go someplace." He said, "Because I know this equipment." He said, "It is crap."
Yeah. At least he's being honest. At least he wasn't fooling you.
Yeah. So that was neat. And I was like, well, you know what? That ham sandwich will get me nothing. So I better figure out how to make money. So I started trying to work on cars and help different people. And through that, just progressed through the ranks and ended up being a crew chief and at the cup level, and had a lot of fun and learned a lot and just really enjoyed that. And then, it just progressed from there.
Did you have to kind of go through a learning phase? Because there's so many crew chiefs, at least in Cup, and I mean not just Cup, at all levels, that are former drivers. Some engineers are kind of breaking into it now, but so many of them are former drivers, and I got a feeling it has to be a tough transition to go from adjusting the car that you're sitting in, because you're getting that feel, to being on the outside and having to solely go off of somebody else's feedback. Was that kind of something that you had to learn to do, where you can't feel how loose that car is, like with yourself, you're having to trust someone else's words that's talking back to you?
Yeah, and I was fortunate when I first, really crew chiefed much. I worked with Carl Long, and that little joker is beyond reason underrated as a driver. And trust me, I know the equipment we took to the racetrack and made some shows, and it's a miracle. I mean,
it was subpar.
Oh, you talk about a stick to a gunfight. That was we went to Roush auctions, stuff they were just selling to get rid of, and would buy it. And motors, engines. Oh yeah. The Johnny Cash song where he took a 1959 piece by piece and built a car, that's pretty much what the engines were.
Yeah, no.
And I knew, we had dyno numbers, so we knew we were 30 to 50 horsepower off. And places that Atlanta, you can't be 10 horsepower off and make the show. And there was probably, we had 750 at the rear wheels, and most everybody else had 780 or better. And
you're just getting killed.
53 cars, and we qualified 20th.
What?
No joke.
How?
It was
just Carl? I mean, can the driver make up that much difference?
It was funny because he's he's like, dude, I just need to talk to Ryan Newman and see what he's doing. Because Newman was getting poles left and right.
Yeah, he was the rocket man.
He was just killing them. And so we're in the low rent district down by the bathroom stalls.
Yeah.
In the
Lucky they gave you a stall in the first place.
Exactly. We were in the garage. And so Biffle comes out of the bathroom and Carl asks him, hey man, what do I need to do for qualifying? And right away Biffle starts questioning, well, what you got in the car for setup wise? And so Carl comes over, well, Biffle said we need to put this spring in. I was like, okay, well, we'll do that. So we tried that and ended up going away from our game plan. And it got us off. And then we lost a lot of practice, messing with that. And right at the end, I was like, listen, come in. And Carl's like, what do you want to do? I said, just come in, get out, sit down, let's talk. So he came in, he sat down. I was like, listen, this is what I want to do to the car. And this is what we're going to do. You go back out and you drive it. So he goes back and, all right, that's better. That's on a good path. He's like, that helped the car a lot. It's good. I was like, okay. I said, so that's in the practice. That's it.
Yeah.
So here's what we're going to do for qualifying. And I look at him, and so walking down pit road to get in the car, I become a salesman. And I'm like, Carl, you trust me? He said, oh yeah. I said, no, I mean, really, really trust me. He said, yes, sir. I said, then I need you to get in this car. You know where that bump is going off into one?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I said, drive past it before you lift. He says, okay.
Uh-huh.
And I said, count to one and then hammer the throttle. I said, you give the car, you do what you know you're supposed to and give the car the option whether it'll keep up with what you're trying to do. If it does, we did our job. If it doesn't, then it's not your fault, bud. We screwed you.
Yeah.
Like, that's as simple as that. I said, but I'm telling you, the car's going to do what you need it to. He says, all right, then. So and I said, I don't care what you do in 3 and 4, man. You just let it rip. He's like, well, all right. So I get up on top of Spencer's hauler, and he's up there with a little cigar because you have these monitors and stuff, and I'm trying to keep up.
Yeah.
Tony Stewart's on the pole at the time with a 2892. Carl goes out, drives it beyond the bump. He's still in the throttle. I'm like, oh, Lord, please lift.
Yeah, please.
And all of a sudden, bam! And this, I think you can count to one. Bam! And he smokes, he smacks the gas, and it sticks, and it's coming. I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He don't crack it in 3 and 4. He flat foots 3 and 4.
Oh.
Comes across the line and run a 2908. So, I mean, that put him 5th at the time. I was like,
Dadgum.
what the crap? Where did that come from? So,
how big was his eyes when he came back in?
I call out 2908 over the radio. Well, he thinks I say 3008. So he thinks he needs to run another lap because that's not good enough.
Oh, no.
So he's steadily getting it, and he's like, ain't you going to call him in? I'm like, nah, he ain't going to wreck it. It's okay. So he comes in, and you got to know Carl. I mean, this is the first time he's going to get interviewed on live TV because where in the hell did that lap come from?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, my buddy Keith, and we talked about it, and I trust him, and woo.
He did his Ric Flair impression.
So, I mean, it was about trust. He trusted me, and I was like, listen, you got nothing to lose, dude. I was like, just you drive the car as hard as you know it's supposed to be driven, and if we did our job, the car's going to keep up with you. And he goes, all right. And he just did it. And I mean, it was awesome. It worked out great. Like I said, we qualified 20th out of 53 cars. And that's when NASCAR, I think it was around 2005. That's when NASCAR was still, you probably had 47 fully funded programs.
Yeah.
Where it took one sponsor to fund your program, where the DeWalt's, the Lowe's, the Taco Bell's, the Home Depots, you saw Napa, you saw one sponsor on one car all year long.
Yeah.
And it wasn't you need 10 sponsors to
just make it now. Yeah.
Exactly. So it was back in the day when things were good, and we took subpar equipment and was fast with it and did good for two what people call dumb old country boys that didn't know much better. And we got laughed at for some of the stuff we brought to the track, but it's what we had, and we wanted to race.
Did you ever get frustrated that you didn't have better equipment? Like, did you ever kind of get mad and just go, if I could have just hooked up with such and such and ended up at Hendrick or Roush or somewhere where, I don't want to say money wasn't an object, but you wouldn't have wanted for anything as far as quality equipment. Did you ever have that moment, or were you just very realistic from the start? This is what we got. Let's just do what we can.
I was realistic from the start. What I hated was that Carl never actually got the got the chance to drive what you would call,
like a quality ride.
well, something comparable to what Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon have. You know, because honestly, those guys have top-notch equipment. And it would have been neat to see what Carl could have done with some really good equipment, because I'm telling you, like I said, I mean, he qualified 20th out of 53 with stuff I know we were 30 horsepower off. And it was an older car. I mean, it wasn't anything, it didn't have any type of technology to it. I mean, it was something that people were throwing away at their auction because they just didn't want it anymore. So that was my one, that irritated me. I really, because honestly, that cat can drive.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, we were at Bristol, and that everybody calls the push to talk button the 2/10 button. Everybody loses 2/10 the minute they start pressing it whining.
The red button on the steering wheel.
And Carl could key up and narrate what's going on in the car for 2 solid laps around Bristol and never drop a tenth.
Wow.
I mean, and so it would have been, like I said, I would have liked to have seen him in comparable equipment. That I think he would be your redneck cup driver household name. I think he would, because, like I said, I mean, he got some fame by what we did, and you know, it wasn't nothing comparable to what's out there.
Yeah.
It'd have been fun to watch, to see him compete with those guys.
At what point on the work end did you get hooked up with Ganassi? I know that was that's something that a lot of people have asked me about and stuff about you. So set me straight on that one. When does that come about?
So around 2004 and 5, I'm doing my own thing. I'm doing similar things to what I'm doing now.
Okay.
Consulting crew chief, different things, and I just got frustrated. And the truth is that, you know, I haven't shared with many people, but Earnhardt, you know, talked to us before he passed on, and he said, look, save your money. Don't be buying boats, motorhomes, jets, any of that stuff. He said, you know, you're going to need it. Brian Francis is going to run this in the ground, and you're going to need that money. So I was like, well, okay.
You took it you didn't laugh that off. You took that seriously.
And I could see through the Nielsen ratings. I mean, you know, people could talk about the economy and those things, but when a man has the ability to press a button and watch your product, and you lose 2 million homes viewing the Daytona 500 when a man can just do this, you got a bad product. And I realized that, and I was like, so okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get with a reputable company that has a very strong test team, and I'm going to be a sponge, and I'm going to learn anything and everything. I'm going to donate all my time to just being a sponge and absorbing anything I can learn. So luckily, I got hired at Ganassi to be on their test team. I took a extremely, what you want to call the extreme haircut, pay cut to do it. And I just, any testing that came on, kinematic compliance testing, they call it K&C rig testing, 7-post testing, pull down testing, 5-mile proven ground oval track testing, you know, any track testing. The only testing that I did not immerse myself in was wind tunnel stuff, because I just didn't care. And I figured that's just way above my pay grade anyway.
Yeah.
So that was where, so in 2000, it was either 6 or 5 that I went to Ganassi.
Yeah.
And became part of the test team. And that was neat, because I got to participate with all the programs that I told you about, and got to work with development drivers. So when they brought Montoya on, I got to work with Montoya. Dude's a beast on a road course.
I was about to say, man, that guy is an animal on a road course.
Got to work with Brian Clausen.
Oh, man.
That kid, I'm telling you.
Natural talent.
Take him to any different track. I don't care. 3 laps, he's up to speed and found the line. 3 laps.
Wow.
That kid's amazing. And, you know, got to watch him grow into a young man, and regretfully learned of him passing. But just got, you know, Dario Franchitti. He was a special guy.
You're working with some world class talent. I mean, you weren't working with back of the packers. You're working with guys that won IndyCar championships and races. And Clausen was, I think the year he passed, he was trying to run 200 races in a season. I mean, you were working with incredible talent. Yeah,
and they, you know, Ganassi had David Stremme, Reed Sorensen, Casey Mears, Montoya. Then McMurray came over. and worked with McMurray. We ended up getting a Daytona 500 ring out of that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
McMurray did a good job. So yeah, got to work with some pretty neat guys. I got to, because of the connection with the IndyCar stuff, I got to meet Scott Dixon and Dan Weldon.
Oh.
And they were pretty cool cats.
How about, they're a different breed, man. Those IndyCar guys, you think NASCAR guys are one way, man. IndyCar guys, man, they are nuts.
Understeer. What is understeer?
Yeah, we don't use that word at Ace Speedway.
You tight, you loose. What's that? Tight, loose. Yeah, but no, it was neat. I enjoyed that. And they merged with Earnhardt Racing, I think in 2009.
Yeah, that was it was like Earnhardt Ganassi for like a year or two, and then they got it out of there.
And then my buddy Dave Charpentier and Rex Garrett and those guys got together and formed what was known as Earnhardt Technologies Group.
Yeah, I've seen that on some dirt cars.
And so I went to work there. Sharpie approached me and said, "Hey, I want you to participate with us." And I was like, "Well, what am I doing?" "Same thing you're doing now." I said, "Well, what's different?" He said, "The name on your check." I said, "Sign me up."
Yeah.
So I think that was when, I got to quit traveling as much and stick at the 7 Post. And we were a GM deal. So we worked with GM Busch cars, trucks, and Cup cars teams.
Okay.
And so that was neat. And I got to meet tons and tons of people in the GM world from that. Tommy Baldwin come over. We became friends. Tony Urey Jr.
Yep.
Pops. Everybody calls Junior Stiffy.
Yeah.
Not everybody, but got to become friends with those guys. I just met a ton of people from that, and it's really neat. Hornet Day come over and talk junk, cut up.
If he's breathing, he's talking junk. I've worked with him on the dirt modified side. That dude is don't piss him off, but like that dude is a hoot, man. He is something, but man, heck of a talent.
Oh, he's a nut, man. He's funny because he came over and Earnhardt's had pretty much just shut that one shop down.
Yeah.
And there was stuff sitting everywhere. And he's like, "Take me around the show me on." And I was like, "Okay." And we go out there and he sees all this stuff sitting there and he's like, "Dude, why don't you go talk to Teresa and tell her to knock this, get rid of this crap." I was like, "You know it better than I do." I was like,
"Yeah, you go up there and do it."
So, but it was fun. I liked doing that stuff. And it, I knew that racing was, in my mind, I was like, okay, racing's in trouble. I've got to, I got to get away from this.
Okay.
And my goal was to, figure out a way to, bring Cup technology to the short track guys, because really my heart's in short track racing. And I wasn't at a point where I could do that. So I got offered a position at Sova Motion. So I took that, I think in January of 2013.
Okay.
And they do all the tire testing for Goodyear and just global company. I mean, they test tires for every kind of manufacturer all over the world.
Like Hoosiers and American Racers and Pirellis and all those and stuff?
Exactly.
Okay.
So they test tires for manufacturers, race series all over the globe. And they have a 7 Post up there, so they do some vehicle dynamic stuff. And so that was kind of why they hired me. And I told the guys, like, look, the director is named Frank Delapia, good man. He and I became good friends. And I was like, maybe we can do stuff to cater to the short track guys and price it so they can afford it and make it simple enough so they can understand it.
Yeah.
And realize how to take advantage of it.
Because there's a need there. You see that you are seeing the need on your end.
It is. And, so we tried to do that, and it just didn't work. Then he's like, well, I told him, I was like, look, Dirt World's where it's at, man. I'm telling you, I love that stuff. I was like, you need to get in it. So there's some smart people there. I bring the IQ way down over there.
Oh, no, don't sell yourself too short, Keith.
It's true. Trust me. There's two guys that if they aren't genius, they missed it by 1 point.
Okay.
No joke.
Like they should have been in a chemistry lab, not working on race cars.
NASA is sadly missing those two boys. So, it was, we needed to try and figure something out. And I was like, listen, Dirt World's where you need to be. And he's like, well, okay. So smart guys in-house designed and developed a bell crank mechanism so we can induce longitudinal load by attaching to the rear end for dirt cars to get it up on the bars.
Yeah.
And could see where things were going. And we had string pots that we could attach to the rear end so we could see how much rear steer you were getting. The string pot we could attach to the pinion so we could see how much pinion swing you were getting from static to dynamic. And we altered the GUI sheet so you could see what things were doing, how you were moving bike and load around in the car, what changes you made. And, you know, Rudiman, Strimmy, like David Strimmy's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
And Strimmy loaned us a car to develop this stuff with. And he's like, I said, dude, I don't know if we're going to rip this thing in half. I don't know what we're going to do. He's like, go ahead, man. It's okay.
Yeah.
So we took, I think he loaned it to us for about 3 weeks. So it took us 3 weeks to kind of sort this stuff out. And then Rudiman, buddy of mine, he's a good enough guy to test with us so we could start understanding some of these things and try and figure things out and learn. And that was neat and got to do some of that stuff. And I was like, you know what? I just need to go out on my own.
Yeah.
And so I worked with Lenny at DRP and bought a DRP DSS4, which is the automated one, so I can do dirt cars. I can pull down dirt cars or asphalt cars. And I got the data systems. I've got bump stop load cells. That's been a big help for a lot of the late model stock guys that I've worked with.
Yeah.
Most of those guys, they understand how to set their cars up. None of those guys have forgot that. It's just they don't quite understand what the bump stop's doing, where it's doing it, and how to tune it.
Yeah.
And that's something that, you know, through the cup stuff, when I was around, we were developing that crap box called the COT car, and we were developing bump stops.
Man, that thing was so ugly. That's the ugliest looking race car I've ever seen.
I mean, that thing was pathetic. But I got to participate with the development of the bump stop stuff.
Yeah.
So any Kinemax compliance test and any 7-post test and any pull down test and where it pertained to bump stops, I got to participate. So not a smart guy, but I learned. I learned from breaking things, so we broke a lot.
Yeah.
And that was where I understand, okay, when you do this with bump stops, this is what you're doing. And so I was like, well, I need to help these guys. So the bump stop load cells, I've been able to help a lot of guys with those on the late model stock cars. The dirt guys, that's just, there's so many moving parts. I'm like, what in the world?
And I don't think I think people from the outside, I think sell it short until they go see it in person. I've had so many people, and I'm just talking as a fan, that I've tried to get to go watch a dirt late model race at 311 or a dirt modified race, and they're like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's not NASCAR or something. And then they go, and I'm like, if you just watch how much that car moves and travels, and that's just what you're seeing from the stands. You're down in the pits, you can attest to it. You're seeing an incredible amount of movement. It is insane the amount of technology a pack of rednecks going in circles is going, is interacting with. You don't think it, because we're lucky we got tracks that have websites and stuff like that. But I mean, it's mind boggling. If you just sit there and watch, you'd be like, oh boy, how'd that thing swing like this? And I just hit my mic doing it. I mean, for you coming from asphalt, how blown away were you kind of at just how much those daggum things move around, especially the late models? Those things move around a ton.
The biggest thing that really was an eye-opener for me, we were doing a data test with a group out in Iowa. Harris Brothers Racing built a lot of modifieds,
yeah,
and they were in Iowa, so they wanted us to come and instrument a car. And the intent of the test was to run 7 of their drivers that have their cars through this one car with the data and just see the different driving styles using the data.
I bet I know a couple of the ones that came through that. Can I give it a try?
Sure.
Taylor Cook.
No.
Really? Taylor was not. All right. I think Kyle Strickler might have been running a Harris. High side tickler. Dang, was Billy Workman? No. Billy, little short guy like Ron Hornadays. Yeah, Billy. Yes. Oh man, the Western Wild Child. I got 2 out of the 3. Yeah. But anyway, sorry I interrupted your story.
So I think the 5th guy went out. The engine broke, and this is Kyle Brown's car, the guy that owns Harris Brothers Racing. So we took it back to their shop, and they had a DRP pull down. So we put it on the pull down, and we're mapping out the corner entry, corner middle, corner exit, both ends, and we're collecting data. We're using the data to put the wheel input and the loads where this car is. And so when we get the car where it's coming off the corner, I'm walking around the car just looking at different things, and I reach in and I can spin the right rear spring. And I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, what's wrong with this picture? I said, I know you're using the data, or we're using the data to put this car at attitude where it is on exit. There's no pressure on the spring. Something's wrong. Something's broke. And that's what woke me up and realized that it's the bars or what's doing everything that's driving the tires in the ground. Is not the rear spring. The rear spring is just to hold the car. But those bars are really effective. And that's when I was like, okay, I got to learn more about this. And this is exciting because there's something going on. I have no clue what's happening.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I understood. I was like, okay, now I understand what's going on. And it's been neat. Just different things. Like I can tell you, I don't want to give anything away here, but like just changing the droop chain on the left rear, it can affect the load on one corner of the car 150 pounds just by shortening that thing a quarter of an inch or lengthening it a quarter of an inch. Now,
wow.
I won't give any of that away.
Yeah.
It's something we learned. I was like, holy moly, man, that's insane.
Yeah.
So things like that, and it can affect the way the rear end moves. So it's very complicated. I mean, you have to, those guys have to be on top of things because there's so many moving parts, and they have to work, you call in unison.
Yeah.
And and it's weird because some of those things apply on asphalt and dirt, but you have to understand how those things work in unison. But once you do, it's cool, man. It's so exciting.
I was saying, man, we could go on and on and on. I think I will definitely have to do a follow up with you just on some of the dirt stuff and whatnot. But before you leave, I do want to give people a chance. At least I want to give you the opportunity to get your phone number and stuff out there for people that might have questions, or they're a racer but they know they need a little bit more, they need a little bit of help on stuff, and we've just gone through a piece of your history and the resume that you have and the knowledge that you have. So if people want to get a hold of you for Montgomery Performance Consulting, what are some of the ways they can do that?
Facebook, I do quite a bit on Facebook. Sometimes I get a little lazy, sometimes I get distracted and busy and just don't follow up like I should. Try and do a good bit on Facebook. They can reach me 336-382-1835. That's a way they can reach out to us. We've done quite a bit with Speedway Illustrated. They do articles from time to time. We should be in an upcoming event when we did a test at Ace with a modified car.
Awesome.
I won't give everything away. Won't tell who.
All right.
But we did a data test. We took the pull down rig to the track, set it up in the tech shed, came off the racetrack, put it on the pull down, used the data. So what we can actually do now is take the data file and put it into a certain text, put it in the pull down machine, and it'll run it like a 7-post. It'll repeat the lap.
Oh wow.
So we did that to see what the car was doing on the track and help the car. So all I'll tell you is we picked the mid-corner speed up about 3 miles an hour.
Wow. See, you got to call Keith to get that 3 miles an hour. But Gummy, I sincerely appreciate it, and keep your phone by you because I'm going to be reaching out to you. We're going to have to do some more of these and maybe get a little more specific on some things. But appreciate you sharing your brain with us, and you can go back to playing with that little fiddler thing you were playing with earlier. But thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, bud. Appreciate you having me.